Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen we're making a zingy, flavorful lemon blueberry cake. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 350. This batter comes together really quickly. Now, in a large bowl, we're gonna add our dry ingredients, starting with 2 cups or 240 grams of all-purpose flour. If you don't have a scale, make sure you're fluffing your flour and sprinkling it into your measuring cup. If you scoop, you'll use too much. I also want 1 2/3 cups of granulated sugar. That's 333 grams. The sugar sweetens the cake, but it also gives it a really tender, melt in your mouth consistency. For contrast, I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. And to puff things up, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. 1 1/2. By the way, if you like delicious things, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's 2 new recipes every single week, lots of shorts, and always something tasty along the way. My scale is done. I'm gonna grab a whisk. I already have a copy of Preppy Kitchen Super Easy. Grab one, link in the description box below if you don't. We're gonna give this a whisk and get everything nicely distributed. Reserve 1 tablespoon of your dry mixture and set this aside. Now it's time to grab a big bowl and a hand mixer or a stand mixer with a paddle attachment. Into the bowl of my stand mixer, I'm adding 3/4 cup or 170 grams of very nice softened butter. It's room temperature, but room temperature on a warm day. You can see it, my finger goes right in. The butter bends nicely. This means it's gonna cream perfectly. That's 1 1/2 sticks. When I just started writing recipes for the blog, I would just say 1 1/2 sticks of butter or 2 sticks of butter, not realizing that the sticks of butter are different sizes in different countries. Now we have cups and grams, so we're always gonna be sure. I'm gonna cream this up on medium for just a few seconds. Okay, that looks really nice. And now we're gonna do something special. I'm adding the dry ingredients, including the sugar, right into the butter. And we're gonna mix this up on medium-low until it's nice and crumbly. So this is called the reverse creaming method, and it is so nice because it makes your cake basically foolproof. We're coating all the flour in fat from the butter, and that protects it from activating and becoming gummy and gluey and overmixed. Basically, the gluten in the flour won't activate when it hits the wet stuff, and you don't have to worry about overmixing your cake. It's very nice. Gives you a really tender melt in your mouth crumb. I'm scraping my paddle down as well as the bowl just to make sure that there's no solid butter hanging around. I want everything nicely mixed. You're gonna end up with something like a wet, sandy mixture. For regular cake batter, you'd be creaming the butter, adding the sugar, fluffing it up, then adding the flour, alternating with the wet and dry ingredients. This is just simpler and you can't get it wrong. Just make sure that there's no big chunks of butter hanging out, and then we're on to the next step. Okay, I increased speed to medium for a few seconds, and when you take a look into the bowl, you can see it's beautiful, crumbly, they're all small pieces. It's like beautiful sand from the most perfect beach ever. Now in a medium bowl, I'm gonna combine all the wet ingredients, starting with a 1/2 cup or 120 mils of sour cream. This gives you so much flavor and it kind of grounds the cake. It gives it some substance without making it dense, and you have a little bit of a tang to contrast with the sweetness. We're also adding in 1/2 cup of whole milk. And if you're wondering where the lemon flavor comes from, it really comes from the lemon zest we're gonna add. You want about a tablespoon, which is 2 lemons worth. I'm using a microplane or rasp just to get the yellow part off of the skin. That's where the oil is. The pith is kind of bitter and does not have that lemon flavor we love. Tap that in. Cut your lemon, and we want 3 tablespoons of juice. You don't need that much because we already have a lot of liquid in this recipe. Measure out 3 tablespoons. Save the rest of your lemon juice for your frosting. And for some structure, I'm adding 3 egg whites. If you're wondering why we're not using the yolks, it's really for the color. I want to have this kind of cold white color for the cake, so the yolks can't go in. Okay, 1. If a little yolk goes in, don't worry about it. That's totally fine. I'm gonna add in a tablespoon of vanilla now. We're gonna whisk this up until it's nice and smooth. Right now you're just breaking up the egg whites and the sour cream. The rest mixes very well. Before everything comes together, we have one more thing to do, and that's combine our tablespoon of reserved dry mixture with our blueberries. Just give that a little toss. The flour, in theory, traps a little bit of air around the blueberries and helps them to float in your batter and not just sink to the bottom. With my mixer running on low, I'm gonna drizzle in this wet mixture. Once everything's nice and combined, get rid of that paddle. I like to keep a special eye out for any zest that's clinging here because the zest has so much flavor in it. Now I'm gonna dump my blueberries in and fold them in gently. Just fold those in. Be gentle with your berries. Give the bowl a scrape just to make sure that nothing's lingering at the bottom. And this is ready to go into our pans. Right now I'm gonna grab 3 6-inch pans, although you could make this in 2 8-inch pans, it's totally up to you. Butter and flour them, so just prep the edge. And add a parchment round. This is your insurance policy that nothing will stick in the pan. If you're never worried about that sort of thing, you can just butter and flour the pans. Distribute the batter evenly into your pans. What I'm trying to do is distribute the blueberries evenly into the pans. If you want, you can eyeball it, but I like to use a scale just to make sure everything is exactly the same. An equal amount of batter in each pan means that the cakes will bake up together evenly. If one has a lot less batter, it'll be done first and overbake if you take them all at the same time. This is optional, but I'm using baking strips today. These are just wet fabric strips that you wrap around your pans, and it insulates them so they bake up really flat. There's no doming, and the edge of the pan has a cake that's nice and soft. If you prefer to have a cake that is kind of like crisp and caramelized on the outside, just don't do this. Using cake strips also means that you won't have any snacking cake when you trim the tops off. My cake's ready to go into the oven, 350 for about 30 minutes or until the center is springy to the touch. In you go. While my cakes are baking, we're gonna do 2 things. Grab a half a cup of blueberries, pop these onto a small plate, spread them out, and these can go right into your freezer. This is for the decoration, and when they come out, they're gonna have that lovely covered in frost look, which looks really pretty. If you don't wanna do this, skip that step. Now, in a small saucepan, I'm adding 1 cup of fresh blueberries, a tablespoon of water, a tablespoon of lemon juice. The lemon is so zingy, it really pairs nicely with the blueberries and wakes the flavor up. And I will say, if you've ever had like a sad batch of blueberries, they looked perfect, you eat them and they have almost no taste, the lemon will fix all of that and save the day. And if they're flavorful blueberries, it'll be even better. And I also want 1 tablespoon of sugar. We don't need that much to sweeten this up. Grab a spoon and we're gonna place this over medium-low heat and cook it down. This is such a nice burst of flavor for the cake. I really hope you make this step. If you need to skip it because you're super short on time, you could use an equal amount of blueberry jam. Overheat you go. While this is over medium-low heat, I'm gonna give it a stir and also do a little smashing. So start bursting those blueberries so they cook down faster. And actually, if your blueberries are strong like mine, a spoon is not gonna be as good as a fork, so grab a big fork and get to mashing. After about a minute or so over medium-low heat, I've mashed all the blueberries, it's all mixed up, and this has come to a boil. So now, we're gonna reduce this to a simmer and let this simmer away until it's reduced by half and gets a slightly jammy consistency. This step totally depends on your cooktop. My stove has a cooktop that is hot as a dragon's mouth and everything happens very quickly on it. An electric stove or gas might be more gentle, propane runs pretty hot too, so know your cooktop and just watch until this is reduced by half and is slightly thickened. Ooh, all so quickly, by the way, so quickly. It gets the most beautiful, natural color. I love this cake. After about 5 minutes for me, maybe 6 or 7 minutes for you, my blueberry reduction has reduced. It looks so jammy and lovely. This is gonna add so much to the cake, but I do want to run it through a strainer so there's no big pieces of blueberry skin hanging out. Okay, pop that in there. All right, run it through. All we want is that delicious blueberry reduction, not the skins. Scrape the bottom of your sieve so it gets all of that juice off, and set this aside to cool. My cakes are cooling and they look so puffy and beautiful, I can't wait to pop these out. But first we have to make the buttercream, so grab 1.5 cups or 340 grams of softened, unsalted butter. This is room temperature, but think about it as room temperature on a warm day. Just like with the cake, I can press in very easily and it's gonna cream up beautifully. Cream it up for just a few seconds. I want about 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, so now would be a good time to squeeze a lemon. Once your butter's creamed, we're gonna add 6 cups of powdered sugar. Add your sugar in a few batches, maybe 2 cups at a time. Mix on low and drizzle some lemon juice in as you go. For contrast, I'm also adding in a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. There we go, just a little bit. And the last batch of powdered sugar. Because this is American buttercream, you can really do the powdered sugar to taste. If you want to stop at 5 cups, that's totally fine. If you wanted to add a little bit more, you could do that too. The only thing that'll change besides the taste is the consistency of the buttercream. The sugar helps give it some structure. So with less sugar, it'll be a bit more slack and you might have some drooping in your layer cake. I'm adding in the remaining tablespoon of lemon juice. And it's a good time to scrape the bowl down. I'm gonna mix this on high for just 1 minute to really fluff things up and make sure it's all mixed well. Then we're gonna divide our mixture and flavor some of it with blueberries. Just a little mixing later and my buttercream is like blindingly white compared to what it was before, basically glowing. In a medium bowl, I'm gonna transfer about 3/4 of a cup of my buttercream and flavor it with my blueberry reduction. We didn't forget about that, and it's gonna give us so much flavor and beautiful color. I'm gonna add my blueberry reduction to my reserved buttercream, about a tablespoon at a time, and mix it in until I have the desired color, flavor, and consistency. It's totally up to you. And if you have any left over, you can drizzle that between the layers, or you could make the whole batch of buttercream lemon blueberry flavored. It's really up to you and how you want to decorate the cake at this point. Look at this color. That is stunning. Oh my gosh. The taste is excellent too. Oh, it's so nice. It's time to assemble our cake. I let my cakes cool in the pan, which was fine because I had that parchment paper. So pretty. Okay. Snip the tips off your piping bags if you're using them. I'm gonna do blueberry buttercream in the middle and lemon buttercream on the outside. The second layer is the same as the first, blueberry buttercream in the middle and lemon buttercream on the outside. Pop that last layer on top. You could completely coat this in buttercream. The recipe makes enough buttercream for this 6-inch cake, totally coated and decorated with dollops and frills, or an 8-inch 2-layer cake, also totally coated. I'm gonna do this with a nice coating on top, some dollops, and then I'm gonna leave it almost naked on the sides, so all these beautiful blueberries come through. It's one of my favorite parts of the cake. I have my remaining buttercream in this piping bag. I gave it a really quick whip on high just to restore it because Buttercream will settle and become kind of foamy if you leave it for a few minutes. So I want this to be silky smooth, which means it needed a quick whip. I'm adding some to the top and some to the sides, but I'm not gonna go crazy. I popped my cake onto a turntable. If you don't have one, you can grab the turntable from your microwave, and apparently that works too. Or just do it on the countertop. Smooth the top. And smooth the side as well. I'm actually gonna do like basically a crumb coat on this so all those blueberries shine through. If your cake's crooked, you can just straighten it up and pop it into the fridge if it's really bad, or just keep going. You could also pop a skewer through the middle to hold it in place. Pull the top in for a nice corner. Finish your cake with a ring of dollops along the top. Chill your cake so the frosting can set. Then, just before serving, top with your frozen blueberries, give it a slice, and you're ready to enjoy. That cake is packed with blueberry and lemon flavor, and it is melt in your mouth. Amazing. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe, and if you like this video, hit that subscribe button and check out my easy cake playlist.